The screening of On the Water is actually the Canadian premiere of the film at the Calgary European Film Festival. And so this is really very special. On the Water is Estonia's submission in the Academy Awards for Best International Film. And I feel like we have a winner. Some of you may or may not have seen the film yet. It's been available just for one day so far, and it will be available online across Canada throughout the festival, and then also in person at the Globe Cinema next Sunday at 2:00. And I'm pleased that you're all here to welcome extraordinary director Peeter Simm and a number of others, and also Liina-Ly Roos, who is a Nordic Baltic culture professor. And I'm Kelly Schuler. I serve as president of the Alberta Estonian Heritage Society. And we are so pleased to bring this film to you. And I'd also like to acknowledge the other members of our film committee, Haley and Thomas and Evelyn here with us, and many of you who have joined us from various places. So feel free to put in the chat where you're joining us from and how you heard about the interview today. That's very interesting for us. And then I'd also like to say thank you to the generous people of the Calgary European Film Festival and the support of so many involved that we have this opportunity to be here today. The Estonian Film Institute as well has supported the screening of this film. And the Alberta Estonian Heritage Society serves to bridge Estonian and Albertan culture. And we also offer a number of cultural events, language, and if you're interested in that, you can contact, I would suggest that you send a note to Evelyn in the chat about that today. And it's next, I have the wonderful opportunity to introduce Peeter Simm, and also his daughter Kadri Simm is joining us from Estonia today. And thanks also to Matham Gods from the Calgary European Film Festival today, and all of you who are with us. So thank you, Kadri, for joining us. Tere?
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. It's my dad is just going to take one more minute before he gets in. I hope that's okay.
Well, that's very good. We see he's hopping on right now. We had a time change last night, and
it looks it works now.
You had one the week before, so we're just really glad we got all that right with the different time zones and changes. And Kadri, maybe you would like to just say an introduction. It would be lovely to have a daughter's introduction of her father and your experience growing up with a famous and very brave film director and filmmaker.
Yes, thank you. Well, I think it's been, we all just have the childhood that we have. What happens there, that you spend your a lot of time at the film, filming. That's just what felt like normal to me. So I suppose it's hard to say how it feels like, because that's how it was. But I remember that my dad, especially when me and my sister, when we were younger, then we always had some small parts in somewhere, running behind in some scene or something like that. So
yeah. And how about in this film?
Sorry?
And how about in On the Water?
Oh, yes. Well, this film, actually, I went to see it, and I actually had not read the book before. So I think it's, I really liked it. I think it's a really despite the fact that there are some difficult topics addressed, and some scenes are quite, it's not like a children's movie at all in many ways. But I think that the overall feeling that you get from that film is really that of kind of warmth and empathy towards those characters, even the characters that are actually, quite complicated and difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Kadri.
Mhm.
So as Peter, we have some questions for you, and welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining
Hi
us
for
today.
everyone.
Everyone, if you can just give a round of applause to Peter for this beautiful work and for being with us today. Some of the participants here with us for your interview and mini panel, also with Liina-Ly, will have seen the film, and some not yet, because the festival just started. And I had the opportunity to watch it with my 17-year-old son last night. So that was really special. And Peter, I'm going to just pin you so you can be larger in life size for all of us on the screen. Thank you. And you have been doing a number of films before that are relating to novels. And that's also a very brave thing. I also know you were directing films during a time that was, you were, very brave to do that. And so maybe start by telling us more about the novel and why this novel was selected to make the film. It's a book for, is it a book for children or more for adults? In Estonia, would the book have been one that might have been read in school, for example?
Yes, thank you so much. I think I haven't read that book before. The producers told me maybe I want to do that. And first time I read a screenplay written by author of novel. And when we are scouting the shooting places, I was very surprised that very many people, and not only kids, have read that. And the first version with what I agreed to shoot that was quite different of book. There was all most important parts that you have seen, but there was many ghosts. Now we have in film only one, that's a ghost of mother. All others I threw away. Maybe if you are interested, there was one of the person was a pilot with a wooden legs, with a prosthesis. That's originally my teacher's film, what we have seen there. There was one Native American Indian Chingachgook. That for that time kids, he was like that was former Yugoslavian films. But I remember when I was a kid, they were so popular. And there was a famous Yugoslavian actor, Gojko Mitic, and producer have speak with him, he's alive. And he was ready to play it. That I like too much because he's 80 years old. But at last, I think that I have very bad experience with the ghosts and wizards in my film. I have all cut them out from all different films. And I never tried to do again the film with a ghost because that's absolutely not in that organic what I like. But especially in that film, we say image of mother, because that feel for me more understandable and more ambivalent, because I understand 12 years old boy whose mother is ran away, left him living in Sweden, and who's thinking that mother is ABBA singer Agneta. And the real actress who plays it, she looks like quite similar to Agneta. And he think about mother, he saw her only in very dramatic situations. After that, when he have no possibility, when he have money, go to the cinema after the fighting with other schoolboys. And in the final place that I hate exactly too much is the final of the film, because that's absolutely from other movie. Because when I shoot, we were quite sure that I cut that out. Only one what I like is that that final epilogue is that comes a letter from hell, from Walter, from the dead man.
Oh.
And then that they start speak about that, and nobody knows who is author of that idea, because when we travel around with film over Estonia, screenplay author asked, that was a good idea that you make the letter from other world from Walter. I told, I do not that. So nobody knows who finds it, but maybe that's a version when we have different versions of screenplay, and somebody make some mark on the screenplay and it goes on, and that I like, but that is shooted absolutely wrong way, I'm sure. That also maybe there is not we doesn't need really there that opera chorus, and that was 5 times more bigger, but
Okay.
but with I think now I know how to do that. Only white ice, one boy, then come girl with a finish that soome keelt, kuidas on. With special finish.
Yeah, Liina-Ly, I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you to comment or further elaborate on this with us.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say I really enjoy that the film shows us a part of Soviet life that is not just a traumatic, even though there are difficult moments, of course. But I feel like it's I've seen it in some other novels and films from Estonia, where we have this child or a young person who is the central character, and through their life we see that, of course, life during Soviet times was not easy, but at the same time people still fell in love and had happy moments and had sad moments. So I really like that this film is portraying Andres's life like that, even though he says life sucks most of the time, right? He says there in the early sequence, elu ongi nõme, life sucks anyway. But I really appreciated that. But so I was wondering if you could say more about using the child or the young person as a main figure, and thinking about how to depict everyday life in Soviet occupied Estonia.
Yes, I want to say that Soviet times, that is not monolith.
Mm-hmm.
It means there is a Stalin time. Stalin had dead 6 days before I have burned. But I feel in my veins the terror and horror of the time. I have made a film about that, because that horror doesn't smell, he have no color, he have no, that is, horror that is covers all, it is transcending. And really, Khrushchev times, that was in the middle of 60s when I was the boy like Andres in that film, that was not so terrible. Of course, there was the people who are sitting in Siberia, but that was no millions. From Estonia, the peoples are, but they do something. There was some reason how, but that was not more anecdotes that you are speaking about Korn or Nikita Khrushchev, or about that there is no white bread in a store. Of course, there is Czechoslovakia invasion, and after that all changed and start very slowly be more boring. That was like a years of oxygen. That was a time when great Russian film directors started. There was a music that everybody knows in the world, Dmitry Shostakovich or Shchedrin, or there was Tarkovsky, Shukshin, Konchalovsky, films that have won in Cannes Festival or in Venice. And after that, all the time, the pressure is going different, and that was not so, the terror was not so big like in Stalin time. Of course, people, if you speak too much, if you made an organization, or if you blow up some Soviet sculpture, you will go to jail, and that's it. But all the time, from the middle of 70s till end of Soviet time, every year life goes poorer and poorer, and that was a strange life, you know. And that was not Stalin time horror over us. And half of our team are people who know all about the time. So we doesn't need the formal things that other filmmakers do. We doesn't need any red slogans, because, you know, they were not red most of the time. They were pink. And they was not so much, and not in everywhere were portraits of Brezhnev. And then we make decision, we do Soviet time without red slogans, without portraits of party leaders, and without stupid Soviet music, and without the ugly monuments of pioneers and sport peoples. But everyone do when they want to do a Soviet time. We try to find that from the life, and our budget wasn't big. For example, I say that we find that there is in one yard was a ship, but I think if I think that I want a ship, the producer say that's not possible. And we try. I like that our decorator Eugen Tramberg, that he had made a great work with the stuff when we are speaking before audience, before the screening. I ask people, please find some mistakes. And when they were careful, some they are fine, like especially in World Town in South, that wet, but there was not, there was a concrete cobbles or like concrete walkways. There wasn't Soviet, but that you see that if you want to see that, if you're watching for that, but some things are so small. Of course, that's not so big mistake when you are see things or clothes from the years before. Bad is if you hear music which is after 10 or 20 years.
Yeah. We noticed the color also. It seems like filters were used for adjusting the colors, and a lot of green, of course, which is opposite of red. And then many of the school children in their blue, lovely Estonian colors of the flag. So tell us more about your choices of colors, please.
That was exact the uniform that kids are wearing in that time, really.
Ah.
Yes, and in that time the life was like that. In the perestroika times, they told that's stagnation, and the life looks like really very strange. It goes poor and poor, you know. When my mom come and open my wardrobe, she asked, Jesus Christ, son, you have 10 parts of jeans. What it means? Some of them are absolutely new. And that's, you know, that's a most wanted thing in the world. I have some pair in 70s because my cousin from Canada has sent me. But you know, there was maybe 5 things that you want to have in 80s. Levi's or Lee or Wrangler, but American jeans. Then you want to have, if you were happy, the thermo with pump. You have VCR player. And if you are very, very happy people and your life is okay, you have a microwave oven. And that all that people they have. Of course, I want to see that most of the Estonians doesn't live in so terrible conditions that our garden is there. Of course, that's in that time there were no homeless peoples because they find them home, they steal electricity, gas, and wood for heating, but they live. Some percents are who are living like that because nobody accuse us that we have lied about that. Maybe we was very cruel, but that's an actor's improvisation. I don't want to cut them up.
How was the main character selected?
Oh, strange thing, you know, we haven't get money first year. And we have other guy who, he plays at last Peeter, who was our first 1 year before. And he grows out of his age. He's playing antagonist of Andres, who beats him all the time in the classroom. And the boy who was playing at last Andres, he was in our cast with his brother, who is older a bit, but he was too young for us. And after 1.5 years, also changed the boy who was too big for us, and Andres started to grow very, very quickly because we have 3 big shooting periods in early spring when you see first winter, then summer, beginning of summer when we shoot spring also, and next autumn. And we see how how Rasmus is growing up. And he is a very talented boy because, you know, he was 12 or 13 years old. And he, every day, when he come next to the shooting location, he understand more and more. He was in the beginning much weaker than girl, than Aurora, and he grows up every week. And of course, for all our team was comfortable. That's for producers, that's very, very uncomfortable to shoot in different parts because it's much more expensive to make again new contracts, again earn cameras, give them back. But for actors and me, that was okay because that was not so easy to shoot that because we especially don't want to use paint in our movie. Decorator have made only some things that was made for film is a cabin for changing clothes or in a beach because we want to move that from one place to other. And when he made a special tableau or something like for post boxes, I told him, okay, you have made that, okay. We use it for other reason. We put a film posters to that, but we put a post boxes on a old, ugly wall. He told that, but we haven't seen them in the winter time, but I told nobody remembers it in the final.
It's really so ingenious, your beautiful film, and fascinating for us to learn these things because to us or the viewer, when those who will still see the film, it's just it seems like all the timing and all the details were so carefully executed to be just so. And now hearing you, we can understand a little bit more. There were many factors and many ways that you maybe needed to improvise and change for the timing and for the growth of a character and for the weather and the seasons. And that leads me to the next question also. Just I heard that you had actually encouraged or agreed to not forbid improvisation during the on the water filmmaking. Can you share more with us about this, please?
Yes, yes. Yes, I like improvisation if we have a very strong construction. And, you know, for me, the script was not my script because I have educated in Moscow, and so I like very strong traditional dramaturgy. I like collapse. I like very exact characters, and I like that they are going through all the movie. But Ruitlane have write all his own really happens story. If we speak with him, he knows everything about what those people do. And you know what's a small miracle? That's a place what you have find for shooting, the main place that near the river, the home of all those people, that was maybe 100 meters from the place where Ruitlane have lived 20 years ago, but we doesn't know that. When we start to shoot, the local people's camera told us have lived here. That's strange, but of course, what about improvisation? I you know, all the actors help kids. And Aurora, who plays the girl, Aurora Kunnapas, she's really from from 9 years, he started to play. Her mother is actress, and she started to play kids role on theater stage. So they were very professional, and I see how boys are growing up all the time when they work both. And of course, we have improvisation from actors, but also from all other group members. Especially I find that the Kolja, the guy who looks like a bit crazy, is he crazy or not, we don't know. But they were so close friends, and after that, when happened with him in that river and when he is hospital, we haven't in a screenplay nothing with him in a very long time, and that was strange. And then we make improvisation when he brings the radio to the hospital, and they pick that up with a wire, with a, and also what we have made. There is too much things that we have made, like especially all that fightings. That was all that fightings were on the home with ladies wrestling, and with Walter fighting with. That's also made by actors, but only the real fightings with the schoolboys that made by a stuntman who had directed that.
Okay. Liina-Ly, I'm sure you must have some interesting questions to ask.
Yeah, I think I would like to ask more about the water, because that seems to be such an important part of the film. But more specifically, how did you maybe approach or think about shooting on the water or on the ice? I think those scenes are so powerful in some ways visually too. I found those to be really beautiful when we start there, or the early scenes where Andres and Kolla are on the ice and we have that they're back to each other. I think that dialogue scene is really interesting. It's not like a reverse shot, but we can see them both in these two shots, and also later in the summer season. So I just was wondering if you could say more about anything, either about shooting on the water or just more symbolically, how did you approach that water image or meaning?
Sorry, I asked a bit. Kadri, kuule, selgitab, ma ei saanud päris täpselt aru.
jah, ta küsis selle kohta lihtsalt vee peal ja jää peal filmimise kohta, et kas sa kommenteeriksid seda, et kuidas see oli täpselt tehtud, et see niimoodi mõjus.
That was a problem for us because the next winter when we have shot the final part, there was no good ice in Estonia. And that was really that actor fell through the ice. And that was all fake, because kids were shooting close to the beach. And after that, that's a computer trick that they are in the middle of that year. Of course, it will be better to go with two actors to Finland, where was a normal winter. But it looks, I really doesn't like that end, because, Kadri's sons, kids, they are absolutely, they have going to movie with class. And after that, they have all discussion about that. Does they think or are they alive, or what it means? Because it goes fuzzy, and of course, especially, and first winter was shooted in Haapsalu, was a shooted exterior of cinema and interior of cinema too, but the interior of cinema was shooted in former railway station. And there was okay ice, and of course there was a very long time, because when producer asked me, when I have read the screen played first time, I told that I make all that fishing stuff 4 times shorter because no one audience like to watch how the fishes are dying. And that's really much less because, of course, I understand that was the only place where small guy feels him well, where nobody fight with him, where nobody want to play with him chess or what. And the story with Kolja, of course, in screenplays there was a situation, but all the people hate too much that Hiregor, who was a former Soviet officer and then big communist. And I want to know why, because if they all speak so bad about him, I want to know why. And we write the text that he was a military commissar who wants that Kolja sent to army. And you know what in the 80s guys do? They are going to crazy house and playing that they are mad. And they have made very strong injections of, I don't know all that that medicine that they have done, but after that they really come crazy. And that's why it was a reason why Kolja hates that too much, that Hiregor. But I cut out, that was too long. That was too long, that's boring. I think the beginning of film was boring before the sound team have made some things, some miracles with the sound that put life in the picture.
So how would others describe your directing style?
That's strange to say, but I think that if I know very exactly what I need, in the end, I like to have people do all their role as they want. Because I never say, as my teacher, Alexander Stolper, told that that's not important how he says it. If you told the main one motive of that, only one motive, he does it, and that's, he cries, no, or he say, no, that's not important. That depends of what is more organic for actor, how he feels. And so especially the role of Kolja, he is guy who here is very rare talent. He doesn't make any jokes. When he moves, all his plastic, his long hands and legs and his face, he doesn't make jokes, especially he looks like a jokey guy. And he's very good actor. I like him. I can work with him in Georg film and on theater stage also.
Can you share a bit with us about plans for future films that you have?
Yes, I have with my German friends, Hans Werner Honert, we have made 2 screenplays, 2 films with him, and 45 years we have searching and searching without result for a good material for a film about Baltic Germans. And it was a different, but at last we find. And that's so classical and so dramatic story. Look, it feels like a Schiller have written it. And that's a play from actor from Rakvere Theater, Thomas Schumann, and that's those stories that the rule of the first night, the medieval Europe, but really that never exists in Estonia. And as I read now, when we start to work on materials, that never have been in Europe, also in other places. But Thomas Schumann's play is the rite of the last night. And that's a love triangle of two Estonian kids who are grown up in a manor with young baron, and they were very close friends. And of course, there is a tension, so big tension of love and how they lose the word, jealousy and history, and that how from Estonia, in the first Estonian independent times, they speak only about 700 years of slave time. But really, that big question, exist Estonians without the Germans who are living here or not? Because especially first books about language, Christianization, the Protestant religion, all that come from that. That's paradoxal, but in the end of 19th century, the education, ma ei tea, kuidas kirjaoskus on?
Literacy.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was higher than in Germany. And in 20 years, they vanished. I have seen in Berlin old German aristocrats, and they have only one fatherland, that's Estonia. They never forgot that. And every year they are gone. And that's like encomium for the people whose blood is on our veins also, and our in theirs. And story is good. And as we find with Hans Werner, that we like to do, that we try to do comedy from tragedy, because that was tragedy for very, very many people. But we don't want the bitter aftertaste when people come out. And I like when they come out, as my teacher says, that you feel how much good you have made. When people come out from cinema, they are 3 or 5 minutes better than they are really. Plus that all together, and you see how big change of good things you have made. But especially what I don't want to do if we do about Soviet time, because for many people that was a time when they were young. And some of them have liver genes, you know. They were very happy because they have them. And some guys have a thermos with a pump. And he was also remember good things from that. And especially we don't want to do enemy from the guy who was at Hirager, because in that time in 80s, they won't say maybe younger people doesn't understand when he come in through the line to first place. He shows something in his hand. That's a war veteran document. And they over Soviet Union, they have rule to come without line. But in 80s, nobody was afraid to say him that, come away, communist, what you are doing, blah, 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 blah. And he don't want to speak with him. But he really, I don't want to do a very evil person from that guy.
Can I add something? I really liked that Andres also kind of likes Hiregorov. I mean, he seems like an interesting person to him. And I think that's a very realistic way, because sometimes children don't even understand all the political, they do understand some, but not everything. So I think it was a really good way of portraying that relationship.
But may I ask a question from you? Do the peoples who are foreigners understand that what happens at Brezhnev, that was a Belgian funeral? You understand that, yes? Because from our method, we doesn't want to show coffin or Brezhnev picture or red square where they are coming with a coffin. But I find the sound when in 1 minute all the trains, ships, and factories are whistling, and from that goes the sound was absolutely realistic. It doesn't change it. That was a strange, like a music, like, and it doesn't. We say only one large shot of red square, and that's all. And after that, grandma and grandfather started to speak that what happened after Brezhnev. Then really people were very afraid of maybe come something like Stalin.
I'd invite if anyone has other questions that they'd like to ask before we wrap up in 12 minutes. Please feel free. You've given us so many things to think about and so many layers of meaning in this film and layers of history and relationships. And it's going to be something we'll need to process, I think, as well.
Thank you too much. About music, maybe some words, because we haven't write special. Only one music was written by Marko Matvere in the final titles, but all other music was fine, from accordion player Henn Rebane, and Marko plays. Marko is also singer and folk singer, Estonian folk singer, and especially that's improvisation, what they do with a Russian guy when they are singing, they're drunk. We have shooted that, and that was absolutely improvisation, because in the pause they have singing that way, and we put on camera, and that was very jokey. And after that we have said, let's do second and third double shoot also for that. That was absolutely the same, and that was absolutely not jokey. But that was one thing is dead, and other is mumia, tomb. That's strange. And also we have made some music, and Marko asked to have a special out of tune accordion that he have in a shooting time, because that was not able to, with the modern instruments, to have so ugly tunes. And he playing Puccini there. Only when we start to do a final click, he told that that's a Puccini, you know. He have directed operas in Estonia theater, Marko.
I'd like to say something bit that, thank you. I am 10 days younger, or sorry, 10 days older than you.
So you have lived in Stalin time.
I have, but I was born here. And my father always said 2 good things happened in '53. One was that I was born, and the second was that Stalin died. So yeah. I was born and raised in Canada, in Toronto. And I visited Soviet Estonia in 1973. for the first time. And I have to say that I enjoyed the film looking at familiar dishes in the kitchen.
Yes,
know,
yes.
The car.
My uncle have lived also in Toronto. Maybe you know.
Who is
He's
it?
Olaf Backen.
I know the
Olaf
name.
Backen.
I don't. I know him.
Olaf Backen, but somewhere in the middle of 60s he go to California.
Oh, okay. I was born here, and I also worked for. So, and just to interject with your previous film, Georg, I worked in the Estonian house, and my boss was Ilmar Heinso, whose wife was Margot.
Ah, really?
So I met her, yes. And that's another
yes.
story. But anyway, I did enjoy the film for the nostalgia, of the Soviet times.
Yes.
Because when I visited in '73, you know, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, the big signs on the walls, or all the the proletarians to unite, you know, and I found that part of the film, and of course the poverty and the doors and the mailboxes that you mentioned. I remember the mailboxes. I remember the doors, those windows that opened, and everything was nostalgic. And of course the story itself, sad, the alcoholism and the fighting and so forth. So, but now that I'm much older, you know, it's a different life. So thank you. That's what I wanted to say. I enjoyed the film.
If I want to talk about main idea of the films, that why we have made it, is that the boy, the young character, must build up his life, his world from the causes.
Yeah.
Like creator of God have made it from nothing or from evil. You must find a good from evil, because nobody is evil 100%. He's 99.9, because he's criminal like that, Walter. But something in his character is helping other people to build up their world.
Okay, I have a question. When film directors in Estonia produce a film, do they have in mind only Estonians living in Estonia as the audience? Or is there also in the back of the mind consideration for international audience? Because there are some things in that film that I know if this were to be shown in Canadian theaters, they wouldn't understand. Things like in the school scenes, there's a lot of emphasis on the marks that are given by the teachers. In Estonia, there's a system of credit marks go from 1 to 5, and 5 is excellent, 1 is 0. But that doesn't mean anything to North Americans. I don't know whether it's the kind of marking that's used in the rest of Europe. So there's a whole segment, maybe it's not that important, but there is a whole segment there that is then lost because of the power that the teachers have over the students in awarding these marks. And it's a, you know, the main character kind of loses out all the time, but I think international audiences wouldn't understand. But on the other hand, it's not right to make a film for Estonians and then gear it only to international audiences, because Estonians already know, for example, that system marking 1 to 5. Estonians don't need an explanation. But for an international audience, there would need to be another scene in there that briefly explains what that is. And I'm just using that as an example. And I'm kind of asking in general, do directors have international audience in mind?
Yes. Of course, if we shoot that film, we are thinking most about Estonian audience. And that was no especially a festival film. We have made that from the people who know about that book, and I was very surprised that the film is so loved by Estonian audience. And they really don't know how the foreign people feel that. Before that, I have 30 years shooting films only with a co-production with other countries, with Hungarians, France, Finland, Latvia, Belarus, Russia, Finland, I say, yes. And for that was quite good to shoot without any other. Really, that was not pressure if you do co-production, but you feel all the time that we must take an actor from there, or we must shoot there. There are different rules, and now we have not so much money, but we were very free in what we have to do.
I had a question. By the way, I'm also born in Liina-Ly.
Wow! And when?
In 1942.
Yeah.
But there was one scene of an apartment building, and did you pick out that window that was broken on that scene, or was that just by accident? I guess it must have been by accident.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, there was one scene of the outside of the apartment building where the girl lived, right? And as I say, the thing that I found interesting was there was one window and the glass was.
Oota, kas te saaksite eesti keeles öelda, ma vastan inglise keeles siis.
Hästi. See oli üks koht, kus oli korterimaja.
Ja.
Seal oli ainult üks aken ja sellel aknal oli pragu sees. Kas oli tehtud mõttega või lihtsalt juhtus?
Ei, seda ma ei pannud isegi tähele, ma ei tea midagi. I don't know about that, but you know, that's a very weak shooting place for me, because you know what I want to shoot there. We have speak with the people who are living in that house, that in the nighttime when they come, the girl is climbing up over the boy, like they do hands that. And I don't know how is it in English, but that's a very, after all the sensual and sentimental scenes, I like that he climbed up over the boy and go into through the open window. But there was a living very old people. They told that they doesn't want to be awakened all the night, because we came only in the morning. But they told us they leave the window open, but they forgot that. And so we have very traditional scene when he write to the hand his address. But about broken window, doesn't know nothing. I doesn't pay attention to that. So it's,
yeah, maybe it was just so common in those days.
Yeah, because everywhere we find the places that are possible to shoot year 82. I was surprised. Mm-hmm. Because especially the cars. There was a smaller that was absolutely new. There was a gasoline from Soviet time inside that. And was absolutely new. No, somebody buys that for collection. You think smaller Volga medicine ambulance. And also the firemen and some Zhiguli cars, and that's possible to find. And I'm very happy that people are collecting them, and some of them are in a good condition.
Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful film. It's the kind of film that people will like to watch over and over again, and there will be more things to see each and every time and more things to understand. We're so grateful that you could join us, Peeter, Simm, and Kadri Simm. From Estonia, it's after 11 o'clock at night for you there now. So thank you very much for making this time to share with us. Everyone here, thank you also for coming. And we really are looking out
Thank you for
your prize at the Academy Awards. We'll be watching for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Goodbye.
Nägemist.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Nägemist, head of the